With regard to the expungement proposal, that's what I would ask Pat to bring you over for, and you're qualified to talk about it, being on public safety. How do you view that proposal?
So obviously it's an early concept, but I have significant concerns, especially when it comes to officer safety and public safety. We use criminal history checks in the public safety environment to account for officer safety and to make sure that we set proper responses by the police departments, and that would be a significant concern for me at this outset.
So no period of time would be adequate in your view?
At this point, like I said, we use criminal histories a lot. So in my full-time job, I manage a 911 dispatch center, and we dispatch for municipal police department. And it's important that we have that information for the responding officers so they know the type of situation they're walking into.
So you think this is treading on dangerous water?
I think it's dangerous in a couple of areas, and I think the most important is our officer safety. Our men and women in law enforcement provide services to us on a day-to-day basis, and they need as much information as they can going into a dangerous situation.
And under current situation, you can just tap this into a computer and find it.
We do have that ability now with the computer system.
If it's okay with Mark, I'd like to ask a question too. Is that okay?
I will do my best to answer.
Okay. So you could have a system, though, where law enforcement would have access to these records, but people wouldn't have access, for instance, if they're going to rent an apartment to somebody or job history or something like that, right? I mean, would you be okay with that? If it's just...
Sure. So, obviously the details, again, haven't been worked out. I would say at first blush, though, it's good to have our employers and some of our people that look into the histories of people, because more information that we have is better for the people making decisions on their business, on their children, on their housing situation. So at this point, I'm not convinced that expunging criminal records, and again, we don't know the number of years we're talking, we're not looking at what kind of offenses, so there's a lot of details to be worked out, and I understand that, but at first blush, I have significant concerns.
Do you think, where do you think there is common ground on criminal justice reform between Democrats and Republicans?
I think we've seen in other states. I mean, we've had other states that have passed similar legislation, so I think there is common ground. I think the important thing is that the leadership, the Senate Democrats, the House Democrats, work with the Senate and House Republicans to come up with some criminal history justice reforms that we can all agree to.
Well, can you give me a couple of examples?
Not off the top of my head, but I believe that there are ways to negotiate and discuss and try to make it best for this entire state of Connecticut.
I mean, there's just going to be some points where you guys disagree. Earned reduction credits, for example, that's something that Republicans are looking to change or eliminate, and Democrats have not shown any inclination to either change that law or repeal it.
Sure. So I'm sure there's areas that we can come to agreement on, and that's why we have the committee process. That's why we have public hearings and why we have screenings, and we go through that process in order to find that common ground to try to see how we can best serve the citizens and the residents of the state of Connecticut, while at the same time making sure that there are some reforms out there that can help people.
How do you feel about the idea of the state of Connecticut providing legal representation to people facing deportation, to minors facing deportation?
In that case, I would say probably going to be a fiscal note attached to it, so I would have to look at the numbers on that. But I think conceptually it's something that could work as long as it's done the right way and it's done following the law that we have now.
Sorry if I'm making you repeat yourself.
That's okay, Emily.
Can you say what your position is on extending voting rights to people still on parole?
My concern there is, again, I have not researched that extensively, but my concern there is that the law exists the way it does and it has for a long time. So I would want to know why the law hasn't been changed, what has been the roadblocks, and what the impediment there is. I'm not opposed to having that discussion, not opposed to looking into that and seeing what we can work out. But it is, it's a little concern. I didn't see the entire press conference, but that would be something that I'd be willing to look into.
What legislation have you personally proposed regarding criminal justice?
I have proposed several bills this year, including a lot of law enforcement bills. So, for example, one bill that would allow, well, there's consolidation of the 911 dispatch centers, which is something that I've been involved with. There are other bills that I've proposed that have protected our law enforcement officers from prejudice and bias when it comes to them being targets on the streets. Another one is the mental health awareness legislation for public safety, something that would allow police officers to have greater access and greater abilities to seek mental health because of the stress of their jobs. So those bills are all moving forward as we believe so far.
Yeah, well, that's always that's a tough nut in terms of that. That's something that the whole mental stress issue. has yet to be resolved.
It's difficult. It's difficult. We've had plenty of testimony on officers that have had serious mental health issues or officers that have sadly taken their own lives. And what we want to prevent is having them feel alone, like they can't reach out for help. Police officers, firefighters, emergency medical responders need to know that the state of Connecticut supports them in the job that they do protecting us day by day. And so that we need to say, you know, it's okay to seek help. It's okay to seek assistance, and you're not going to be penalized for it.